Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. My name is Aaron. I am here, as always, with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management, my good buddy, Mr. Ryan Nelson. Ryan, how are you today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
You know, I can't complain, man. It's a great day, a wonderful day. But before we jump into this week's episode, which is episode 101, keep that in mind. We're crested the 3 digits as far as the podcast numbers go. But definitely want to give a call out here. We just recently got word, you recently got word that you won a gold again for the best wealth management in the Sierra Nevada area. Is that a true rumor?
It's true. Yeah, we're excited and honored to be awarded.
Yeah, no, the Alchemy Wealth Management. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you got gold this year, you got gold last year, and then silver the year before. So you've been on the podium 3 years in a row.
That's right.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's pretty cool to see that. Like what you've built here, and just the dedication from your clients and the people who are actually voting on this to see the importance of what you do and how Alchemy's been able to serve everybody's needs. So,
yeah, thank you.
Big shout out there, and
Appreciate it.
If you guys aren't familiar with that, it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat to see that kind of acknowledgement for Mr. Ryan here. So
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's jump into what's really important. Let's get into why the people are here. Building wealth ish. The topic today we're going to talk about is building wealth through the public works. So financial advantages of state and government employment. So pretty much we're going to talk about, we've mentioned it a few times on different podcast episodes of, I think we had a listener question who worked for the state of Nevada. We've had, I think we have a couple of friends who do as well, with teachers and such too, who work for the state or work for these, or in that public work area. Mm-hmm. And so today I'm hoping you can kind of break down some of the unique benefits of working in that industry or for those entities, having the state or government as your employer, and just kind of what people, might be aware of, might not be aware of when it comes to that, if that works for you.
Let's do it.
Let's dive in.
So yeah, I mean, one of the main differences, and we talked about this on a previous episode, but one of the main differences is most people who work for for-profit organizations are going to have 401ks, whereas a lot of employees who work for the state or city or local or national government are going to have what's called a defined benefits plan instead of a defined contribution plan. So instead of a 401k, they're going to have a pension. And so for most people, from a retirement planning standpoint, that's going to be the main difference of working for a city or state compared to like a for-profit organization. So when you have that pension plan, now, so like a 401k, most people are familiar with now these days, and basically you put money in on a monthly basis. When you put the money in, you invest it, however, in whatever kind of tickles your fancy, whatever aligns with your goals, and you have no idea what the end benefit will be. Mm-hmm. You have no idea. It could be $1 million, could be $5 million, could be $100,000, right? You just know how much you're putting in, right? And the defined benefits plan is just the opposite. So the benefit is what's being defined. And so typically if you think about like a school teacher or a cop or a firefighter, typically they'll have a pension that says they have to work there for a certain number of years. And then when they do, they'll make a certain amount of money in retirement. Mm-hmm. So maybe it sounds something like, hey, if you work for 25 years, we'll give you 75% of your wages when you retire every year for the rest of your life. That'd be kind of a oversimplified, typical representation of a pension. And so what you want to do is if you are a recipient of said pension, you're going to want to understand how your formula works. Right. So when can you retire? Is it 25 years, 20 years, 30 years? And what is the what's what we would typically call the benefit factor. So what is the number that is being multiplied by? So when you work there for 10 years, how much benefit do you get? If you work there for 20 years, how much benefit do you get? When you get 75% of your pay at the end, is that only if you've worked 30 years, or is it if you've worked 20 years, so on and so forth? And then you want to also know what it's being calculated based on. So oftentimes it'll be, it'll be based on like your highest 3 years, or it will be based on your last 3 years. Those might be two different. You might have a pension based on your last three or your final three. If it's based on your final three, you're going to want to try to make your final three your highest three, right?
Absolutely.
So you just want to know exactly how your pension is established. And each one has the capacity to be slightly different. So it'd definitely be worth looking into kind of the details around your pension and the formula that drives what your end benefit will be. You also want to know your vesting timeline. So oftentimes, if you're qualified for a pension, if you leave after 1 year or 2 years, you might get nothing.
Right.
So you might have to work there for a period of time, often 5 years or something, to even become vested. Then if you work there for 5 years, if that's the vesting period, you'd be vested. Then if you leave after that, you'd get some amount of money. But again, the amount of money you'd get would be likely dependent on how many years of service you have, you've put in. So you're going to want to learn sort of how it's going to grow, at what point you qualify or vest. And then you're also going to want to know when you do start receiving this pension. So you retire, you're now receiving the pension. You're going to want to know, how is this pension going to change over time? So is it going to grow with inflation? Is how much it's going to go up each year dependent on what like the quote unquote inflation was that year? Or is it a fixed number? Like it goes up 3% the first 5 years, then 5% the next 5 years, right? You want to learn how it's going to change over time. And so that would be like the cost of living adjustments.
No, that's a good piece you called out. It's actually funny. A few weeks ago, I was at actually a wine bar, and we were celebrating a friend's event. And one of the guys who was there, he was a retired fire chief here in Reno.
Oh, awesome!
Or actually, he worked at Sparks, and it just so happened my buddy was there. He's also a firefighter, so they got to talking and such. And he asked him like, "Oh, how do you like retirement?" And he's like, because he worked 33 years, I think is what it was. And he was like, "I love it. You know what I love? Those cost of living increases."
Oh yeah.
He's like, because he's been retired for X amount, but he still through his pension like gets like a cost of living like. And I didn't dive into exactly how it works, but he's like, he kind of gave an overview of like, oh, I already budget this amount, and then now I'm getting more. He's like, I don't even know what to do with this money, kind of stuff. And I was like,
good problem to
you're
have.
doing it right.
Yeah,
I was like, when it came to that, but yeah, it was kind of funny to hear him talk about that. He's like, that's a great part.
Heck yeah, I love it. That's a great problem to have. But yeah, so hopefully if you're receiving a pension, it won't be static. It will increase over time, like that, gentlemen. So, cool. So yeah, pensions is a huge difference between if you work if you're working for a public entity versus a government or I guess a for-profit organization versus a government entity. Another would be oftentimes they're going to offer some sort of supplemental retirement plans. So that could be things like 457s, 403bs, 401as. These are other types of retirement accounts. They're going to act very similar to in most ways. They're going to act very similar to a 401k that maybe you're used to, but you could potentially be participating in the supplemental retirement plans in addition to receiving that pension as well. And one of the cool things with these, with some of these plans is oftentimes they can sort of coordinate with a 401k. So you might be able to participate in both a 401k and your supplemental retirement plan, and theoretically receive a pension. So there's some employers out there who offer kind of a whole host of different benefits. And then also there's going to be some different, actually, we've talked in the past about HSAs.
Yes.
So that would be largely, I suppose, similar to your for-profit. But as you're just kind of thinking about if you do work for, say, the city or state, and you're thinking through kind of the benefits you would have potentially your pension. You'd want to learn about potentially supplemental retirement accounts, and then you'd have your health, your health benefits. Which, if you're in a high deductible healthcare plan, we've talked in the past, you'd be eligible for a health savings account (HSA), which has that triple tax advantage.
Yep, absolutely.
So you'd be able to potentially contribute to that as well. So those would be the three main sort of kind of retirement tools you may have available to you. There are a couple other like things that could be available, like student loan forgiveness. Oftentimes there'll be student loan forgiveness programs if you're working for like a particular city or a particular state. So that'd be something to check and see if where you're working would qualify for that. And then I think just in general, this would be a general statement, but oftentimes they're believed to have better job security, like more secure. Also, there's they're oftentimes known for their benefits for whatever reason. They're oftentimes known for not being the highest paying, but really good benefits.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. I feel like that's kind of the stare, and obviously it depends on what industry you're working in, how long you've been there and such too. But I feel like that's exactly what I think of. Maybe you don't get paid the most, but you can max out and you have great benefits. Like that's, and sometimes, I mean, you run the numbers and that might, even out over
absolutely.
Like if you're able to take advantage of them, like you've kind of been talking about, of knowing at least what they are.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So it's and again, that's like you said, it's probably more of a stereotype, but I do think there's some truth to that where in general, probably, a state employee maybe makes a little bit less than if they were doing the equivalent work for a for-profit, for a for-profit organization. But again, in general, their benefits might be a little bit better. So they might have better health care or maybe the organization pays for their health care entirely. They might have better paid time off policies. So there'd be kind of those secondary benefits that you'd want to be thinking of. So I think in general, a lot of really you'd kind of think about retirement planning in a similar way as if you were working for a for-profit organization. But again, there's going to be some nuances. The main difference is going to be that defined benefits plan or the pension. And then you'd want to explore your supplemental retirement plans, see if HSAs make sense for you, and then also explore sort of those secondary or tertiary benefits such as the time off and student loan forgiveness and all those kind of exciting points as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting point. One, you use the word tertiary there. I can never say that word like my first try. I have to like hear it like 4 or 5 times and like sound it out.
It's like Russian roulette. I'm surprised I even tried it.
Yeah, it was. I was like, wow, you nailed that. Like immediately I was like, that's really impressive. And then I was like, I'm going to take a go at it. And I'm sitting here for like the last 10 seconds, like saying in my brain.
Tertiary.
Felt like I nailed it. So keep that in mind. But I think that you really broke this down that one, I don't know as though, one is better or worse, like working for a for-profit or a government entity. But I think it all harkens back to like really knowing how to maximize your benefits and your, what you're, first off, like, I mean, for myself, like, I don't want to work at a job that I hate. Like, you want to find something, whether that it be in, the for-profit or, a government entity or something like that. But also, if you're going to be working, which we probably will have to, the vast majority of people listening to this podcast are probably working, but ensure that you are taking advantage and you just have that knowledge of what those benefits are. Right. That's a big, whether it be for profit, whatever, like, but ensure that, hey, cool, if you're going to work for the state, work for the government, whatever it might be, like, ensure one, you kind of like what you do or you're cool with doing what you do, but also, sit down with, the HR individual or whoever kind of sets up your benefits and make sure you fully understand those, because like when you first get hired, you mentioned the, is it a 2 year with that vesting process, which you're going to cover on other episode as well too. But just make sure everything's understood, and it works best for you. And always, as we always say, like make sure you're aware of what you're doing and how to best maximize it. Talk to your financial advisor, whatever it might be, just to make sure you're maxing out all those different areas to get you where you want to go with your goals.
Yeah. Here's one random example. I just crunched some math on. So imagine a common, I think, public employee that we think about is a teacher.
Sure. And
they're notoriously underpaid, right? And they also, for the most part, at least in this part of the country, have a pension. So they'd be part of Nevada PERS here in Reno where we live. And so what's interesting is, so let's say a teacher gets hired, and it doesn't matter the number. Let's just pretend that they start at making $30,000 a year. So we'd see that and we'd say, man, the teacher making $30,000, that's nowhere close to enough money. They're drastically underpaid, right? Which is 100% true, I think. True, right? Yeah. They're also going to have some other benefits, right? They're going to have health insurance and all this other stuff. And then they have this pension. And how do you quantify that pension? It's extremely hard to do, right? It's very hard. But if somebody was like into sort of gaming the system and retirement planning to the best of their ability. If we took this example of this school teacher who, let's say, worked for 30 years, and over the 30 years, they slowly started making more money, right? And then they recognized, let's say for this particular pension, they could get 30 years, they could get 75% of their highest 3 years. So at the end of their career, they work 27 years in the schoolroom. And then they move into an administrative role and start making, by the end of their career, after they've busted their butt for 30 years, they're making about $100,000 in an administrative role, right? So now they retire. Their pension would be based on the $100,000, not the $30,000 salary they started with.
Right.
And if they were making $75,000, that means, 75%, that means they'd be getting $75,000 a year, right? So now if we were to kind of think about this, it'd be like, okay, what's kind of the equivalent amount of money you would need to pull $75,000 a year on? So like if I was just a normal W-2 employee saving in my own 401k, and what would I need to build my 401k up to be able to spend $75,000 a year, right? So we've talked about the rule of 25 or the 4% rule in the past. So let's just apply that. It's a rule of thumb. I don't love it, but let's apply it to this anyways. So if we wanted $75,000 a year and we apply the 4% rule, that means we'd need about $1.9 million in our 401k. So then the next question would become, okay, well, how much money would we need to save per year or per month to get to $1.9 million over a 30-year career? So if I started saving at year one, just saved a fixed amount every month for 30 years with sort of an average rate of return, how much would I need to save per month to get to that 1.9 million? How much do you think it would be?
Per month?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. $500 a month.
500? So it's 1,850
a month.
Yep. So if you want to get to 1.8, so I mean, depends on what assumptions you use.
Sure,
but I
sure,
said,
definitely. Yeah.
I said if you assume a 6% rate of return at 30 years, you'd need to save $1,850 a month for 30 years to then generate $1.85 million that you could then pull approximately $75,000 a year off of using the 4% rule. So what's interesting is that teacher, when they're making $30,000, they're drastically underpaid. Again, they have access to this tool that's this pension that could pay them out, if they take advantage of it, potentially that $75,000 a year, which would be the equivalent of them saving, again, $1,850 a month.
Right. Yeah.
So then if you multiply that by, 12 months in a year,
months, sure.
We're talking that's like $22,000, $22,200 a year, almost in retirement benefits as well.
Right.
So when that teacher's thinking about it, if they say, yeah, I'm making $30,000 a year, but I also have maybe some health insurance on top of this, I have the equivalent of almost like if I'm planning to move into administrative roles and, put 30 years here, like you could almost start doing the math and thinking in that kind of vein and come to the conclusion that like, man, this pension is the equivalent of me making an extra $22,000 a year. Or if another way of wording it, if I was working for a for-profit organization, I would have to make another $22,200 a year to save to have the equivalent retirement. To have the equivalent retirement.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you look at this person making $30,000 a year, and it's like, oh, after the retirement benefits are added in, they're making $52,000 a year. Oh, okay. And then maybe you look at a private teacher, and maybe they're making $40,000. Well, yeah, the public teacher's underpaid. They're only making $30,000. Yeah. The private teacher's making $40,000. But when you include all the benefits, who's actually better off, right?
Sure.
So you definitely want to do those comparisons.
Yeah.
And it's just maybe a semi-tangible representation of how the benefits, sort of the hidden benefits almost, can add up and have some tangible benefit to your retirement planning.
I think I don't know if there still is, but there was like a website where you could look at like state employee and like what they make but it also included like it had like salary plus benefits on there. I think for the state of Nevada, I looked it up a long time ago, but I can't really remember. But it was really cool to see like how it quantifies that specifically. So it's like, hey, somebody makes $50,000 a year, but actually it's going to say that they make 67 with everything combined with it too. So anyway, we got off a little bit there, but it's a great example of like, hey, maybe that upfront salary, maybe it doesn't look super great, but ensure that like, hey, if you can take advantage of these things, depending on what your life goals are, you can make it work for you without a doubt.
Definitely. Yeah. So I don't think like, working for a city or state or anything is good. I don't think it's bad. It just is what it is. And you just want to have the knowledge to properly evaluate the sort of total package.
Yep. Yeah. That's a great way to end it. The total package of whatever your employment is, make sure that you understand it and maximize it as best as possible. Yep. So awesome. Well, thanks, Ryan, for that. We'll go ahead and pause, and we'll be right back on the other side of this. Everybody hang tight.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back to this side of the Fiscal Physical podcast. We're on the personal section here, and Ryan, this is going to be a fun one, a fun question that I came up with here for you. So I'll pose it to you first. If you found $500 on the ground, we're just going to call it 5 $100 bills.
Okay.
What is the first thing you'd do?
I guess first thing I'd do is look and see if somebody had just dropped it.
Sure. Great answer. Great answer.
Assuming it's just really just up for grabs there, and then I'd probably put it in my pocket and just forget about it. And when I get home, I'd put it in like my safe or my nightstand, and probably nothing would ever happen with it. Yeah. Like that's the honest answer. Yeah. So yeah, probably nothing. I'd like to think I'd like use it for like a fun dinner or something like that. But like, yeah, the honest answer would probably just go in a pocket, go in my safe, and maybe that's why I do what I do. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. And that's the best answer you can have there.
Yeah. What about you?
It's funny to think about. I was running this scenario with like, I was talking to my wife about this, and I was like, "Oh, what do you?" And she's like, "Well, we'd want to see if it belonged to anybody." And I was like, "Nah." Yeah. I was like, "At what point does that like number like get to a point where we maybe don't want to do it?" And I was like, "Is it $1,000?" She's like, "Well, it's got a comma in it, like that kind of thing." But first off, I think I'd do the same thing. I'd look to be like, all right, is this anybody's money?
Sure.
And then like,
am I on a hidden TV show?
Exactly. And honestly, if I am, I'm like, I'm probably just taking this $500, like, and I'm going to put it in my wallet. I might, on the way home, maybe fill up with gas, use that as cash or something. But I don't know. I don't think I'd do anything frivolous or anything with it specifically. But like, I ran this scenario with like, what if I found $20,000? Like, and at that point, I'm like, well, what do I do with this? Do I turn it in at that point, or do I keep it? Like, how do we kind of? And I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
But I'd probably lean towards it'd be hard for me to really go really far out of my way to hunt that owner down.
Sure.
We'll leave it like that, I suppose, for me. So maybe that says a little bit about my character. But I like your idea of just taking it up, man, putting it in the safe.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't get around to doing too much with it.
Nah, why would you? How could you? But anyway, I'd like to pose that to the listeners. Like, let me know what you guys would do if you found $500 just laying around. What would your first thoughts be? Would you do anything fun with it? Let us know. But anyway, that's all we got for you guys today here. Appreciate the listeners. Please check us out wherever you get your podcasts. These drop every Tuesday morning, so we'd love to have you subscribe, listen away, and hang out with us. This is always a good time. So, Ryan, anything else left to say before we wrap this one up?
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.